Uh, we've ruined the show already. Oh my gosh. Good evening, everyone. John Henry Soto here, along with George Batista. Welcome to the Artist Blueprint Live. Today, we're going to be talking about the rebirth of music marketing. And this is actually a part two because last time I talked a lot about this and I had all my notes, but I didn't get through them all. So we thought, you know what? Let's do a part two and really wrap up what we were talking about. I think we covered a lot of really interesting things last week. Um, and especially having we're George and I are in a unique position where we had the experience of before all this technology came into place and now with the technology. So it's a very interesting place to be because we're still young enough to utilize it, to use it, to be successful with it, and but we're old enough to remember what it was.
Right.
Whereas kids that were born 20 years ago don't really even know life without this,
True.
and people that were born, in the 50s don't use any of this, and so that becomes, or at least they don't utilize it the same way,
Right.
so I thought it was a really interesting conversation to be able to bring those elements into play and to be able to go over different strategies that we can actually help others that are trying to put out content, especially if you're an artist, because that's what this is. This is the artist blueprint. This is what we do.
Hey. All right.
Yeah, it's the artist blueprint. Look at my setup. And so we want to make sure that we provide not only content that is entertaining, but is also useful that you can leave here and go, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. I think I'm gonna start a MySpace account tonight and see how that goes. So before we get started, as usual, we're gonna give some love to our sponsor. For that, I will turn it over to Mr. Jorge Batista, who will lead the proceedings.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to. No, sorry.
I don't know why I
Uh,
said that.
wrong thing.
Yeah.
Um, um, anyway, yes. So the artist blueprint is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family, a family.
I'm sorry.
Come on, John. A family owned and operated nutritional supplement company providing highest quality, clinically formulated supplements since 1995. 1985. I will get this out. I'm telling you. So make sure you check them out, okay, at myvitaminresource.com because I use their supplements every day and I recommend them. And of course, because of who I am and what I do, you should you should make sure you listen to me. Now, because you are our listeners and viewers, you will get free shipping on your order if at checkout you put in the artist blueprint. Okay, so make sure that's your promo code. Then on top of that, you can add in their monthly special, and this is National Nutrition Month, so of course they have 25% off their daily supplements in March. All their daily greats like Daily Energy Multivitamin, Daily Bone Excel, Daily Protector, all fantastic supplements which we take again in this house. So if you want great supplements that actually work and you can get a nice discount on them as well, check out Wellness Resources at myvitaminresource.com. We're being silly today.
Yeah, we are very, very silly today. So we're the topic is the rebirth of music marketing. When I said rebirth, when I first my first reason for saying that is that there was a period of time when there was so much confusion with how you can utilize the technology. It was not clean. It wasn't streamlined yet. And so it was really difficult unless you had either a real technical abilities, with computers and stuff, or a lot of money to put ads out in Google Words and those kinds of things, Google AdWords and all that. You couldn't really utilize. Live streaming was not a thing.
Right.
There was, what was the other thing? Websites have been around for a while, but integrating them into social media platforms was a new thing, and people weren't figuring out. So it's like, well, I can't get nobody to go to my website. Well, nobody's typing your website. It's like
Right.
our situation, right? Nobody goes to the computer and let me type in artist blueprint for the hell of it. See what comes up.
Right.
It's not going to happen. They want to type in entertainment. They're going to type in, you know, self help. Artists, success. Being a successful artist, and then you have a chance to be there. So as the tools got better and the streamlining became, a little bit more confrontable for people. Wait, now we're living in a real rebirth where the last, I would say, maybe the last 2 years really it started, and now we're at a point where if you're a band and you really do the work and you really understand the platforms and how to utilize them and how to be consistent with posting, you can have a musical career, without the major record labels money, without distribution. There are actual now distribution companies that you can hire to distribute your stuff. You can put your stuff on Spotify. We have this show is on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on all the platforms because it's been streamlined. You get
Right.
one platform and they do it all for you. You just pay them and you get your stuff on there. So that's where the rebirth comes from. It's like now we're all again able to do the things that we used to do, the postcards and the flyers on the cars and the phone calls and all the stuff that used to be out. And then in the 90s, I guess we had email, towards some of our things. So we would have email and stuff. But the email was, people would look at email, it was almost like a nuisance for a little while, or it was like ooh, somebody sent something,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now it's, you get bombarded every day. So the open click rate back with email back in the day used to be a ridiculous, like 90% open rate. Now it's like 6, it's like 2, it's like 3. It's like if you're lucky. So that's why the taglines and all that. But anyway, this is all stuff that you can research. You can study this stuff. You can read books on it. I got so many books on stuff like this that I've read that really gives you a good blueprint to build a career. So that's why the rebirth of music marketing is. That's why this episode is called that. In case anybody wonders, I don't think anybody cares. Nobody cares. So the last thing that we were going to talk about was last time, and I'm going to turn it over to George because George has a really interesting story that we're gonna listen to um, about his transition. His
Really, John?
transition. We're already canceled. You know how shadow banned we are
I
on this
know.
show.
I know.
I was just talking to somebody
Especially me,
about
by
that.
the way.
Yeah, I was
They
I
hate
was
me.
just talking about, yeah, you you don't
I'm
even have
like,
a shadow anymore.
I know. I'm public enemy number one
You're
at this point.
like in the abyss. No, but me too. Like for years, I was just talking to someone about how, like, I post consistently. I post content. I do the reels. I do the and I don't look at the numbers because I can't, because I know that stuff has happened and that I'm on a list. I'm on a naughty list,
Right.
right? Because I posted some stuff which, by the way, some stuff that today is actually true. By the way, anyway. So, but that being said, I look at some people who post and they have thousand, like 100,000 followers, and they get almost no interaction. Now, either they purchase by, I get that, all right, that's fine, whatever. But to the point that these platforms they should be a clean swipe, a clean sweep of these platforms. They should release some people from this and let them actually get their content out there, naturally and organically. And I'm not no special treatment or anything like that, but for us to say that there's no such, they'll say there's no such thing as shadow ban. That's such a lie. It's such a lie. And I wish that they would just come clean and say, look, we do actually restrict some accounts because they go against community guidelines. Totally valid. They got their guidelines. If you violate those guidelines, you're done, right? I got that. I respect that. But there was a time when things were a little bit sketchy, whether they were right or wrong. There were opinions. I think where we currently are today in the world, I think a lot of that stuff can be wiped clean, and we can kind of reset and say, okay, let's start again. Because I think a lot of artists are being hurt by this. Artists that are opinionated, they have their views on things, and whether you agree or disagree with them, and that's not the point. The point is that they just had an opinion, they had a view. So anyway, I wanted to just why did I go there?
Because we were talking about how we're shadow banned anyway on this show.
Oh, right. I was gonna say you were gonna say a story, and then I made a
Well,
crude
yeah, no,
comment.
yeah,
But
but
yeah,
it's yeah,
so
and that
yeah,
that no, and listen, I'm 100% in agreement with that. Okay, I think they need to redo these whole things
vitamin
and
C.
and to let and to let to let people actually be able to, yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, like you said, I mean, forget, there are people out there that it may not be necessarily opinion, well, it's actually fact, but that just say the fact and still get shadow banned.
right. Yeah, because
You
it
know,
doesn't
you
it
know,
doesn't it
they,
doesn't serve the
it
narrative.
doesn't serve the narrative, right? But you're right. It hurts artists. It
That's
hurts.
everybody,
It
really,
hurts
when you
every.
think
Yeah,
about it.
you're right. It hurts everybody. Everybody has to now figure out.
Like,
When if
whatever happened to whatever happened to the cream always rises to the top? Do you remember that? That
yes,
was that was like an expression. The cream
yes,
always rises to the top. So that's basically saying that the good, right, the nutrients, the whatever, will always rise to the top, meaning that if you let in stuff that's not, people say, I don't want to say the word, but they say that it's not accurate, right, and it's missed something, right, then, but if you let it in, eventually the truth is going to squash all of that. Whatever is a lie, it's going to press it down, because the cream will rise to the top, because the truth is always going to rise to the top. It doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in. It doesn't, you could be against something, but you're going to know that the truth is always going to rise to the top. And it has risen, and it is rising right now. Daily we're getting more and more things, so it doesn't matter what anybody does. It doesn't matter. You can suppress everything. You can suppress every piece of content that I put out, that you put out, that doctors put out, and it doesn't matter anymore, because the truth is always going to rise up to the top, and it will get through to everyone. It just will. It doesn't matter. The technology, the ones and the zeros that are being controlled by whatever, it doesn't matter. They're going to eventually go down, and that's where this gets a little frustrating, trying to, because right now we're trying to help artists, right? And it's frustrating to try to get our content to be seen by enough artists. And I'm constantly posting, I'm constantly tagging, I'm sharing, I'm paying. I pay for ads. I pay sometimes for this show, like a specific show or something. I want to, okay, let me put some ad on.
yep.
I get nothing. Why am I paying? Why am I paying Instagram and Facebook if I'm getting nothing? It literally boggles my mind when I post something. I pay $50, $100 to boost something for like a week. And I go there, and it is almost like I did nothing. It's like little, they show a little up, like maybe a lot more views, a lot more. It was on a lot more pages, but it didn't go to my targeted audience, which would have been people that would be like, oh, this might be interesting to me. I might like this because
Right,
this resonates with my thought process.
right. Well, I think, and again, going into like kind of talking about the marketing piece, and this is why I personally, and this is just my belief on it, in when it comes to these platforms, the way I use it, I use it as just a piece to get stuff out there, but I don't rely on it.
Right.
It's
Oh yeah,
I don't
I
sit
definitely
there,
know
I don't
that.
sit there and wait for anything. No, it's
No.
just like it's almost like putting a fly. It's almost like putting a set of flyers somewhere, and maybe some people will look.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's like a
that
billboard.
it's like a bill. Exactly, that's the way
Billboard.
I look at it. Okay,
Yeah.
and it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, because of exactly what you're saying. Okay, that's the big one. Number one. Number two, I just don't want to get caught up in that trap
Right.
of
Numbers to
getting
seeing.
sucked into numbers and getting sucked into,
Yeah.
oh, all of a sudden this one's 150, I got to keep doing that and then chase the algorithm. No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just not, and it's not worth it for me.
Yeah. And it's
And
not
so
geared for that either.
and it's not geared for that. And the point is, I'm gonna, so I suggest, yeah, put your music out there, put your stuff out there, but again, understand that piece of it, that it is
Yeah.
just a tool to market. It is not going to be the be all and end all. It's not going to be, well, and this is what we were talking about last time, the whole virality thing, right?
Hmm.
And trying to play to the virality versus the actual saying, quality, the quality of what you're making, to me,
Yeah.
is paramount. Okay.
And you have to like it.
Yes, you have to
You have
like
to
it.
like it first. Don't
And
do
this
it
is
for
what,
the algorithms
and
because then that.
there's one thing that I've been coming across a lot lately, is the concept of be so good that you can't be ignored.
Right. Steve Martin.
There you go. Okay. So it's that mentality that you have to have, in my opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
So whether TikTok or whatever loves you or not, it's okay. You have good quality content and it's going out there. And like you said, John, the cream will rise to the top at some
Always.
point.
Always.
It will go out there. Now, yes, there is content out there that sucks too. And maybe it's not going to get anywhere. Right.
Yeah.
So, but you have to
Well,
always be looking at that.
there's a shift happening right now, and people may deny that it's happening. They'll just think of me as another conspiracy person, which usually gets proven right in 18 months. But that's not what I'm talking about now. What I'm saying is there's that there's a shift happening right now, and I'll tell you why this shift is happening. I mean, why my proof is go to our last Grammys that we had.
Mm.
That was actually pretty good. They actually had music. I didn't see Satan once.
Ah,
Satan did not make an appearance. The Oscars, same thing, very funny. It wasn't woke.
except for John Cena being naked, but
Yeah, I don't know what that was. He was just trying to be funny.
I know.
Um, but I see things kind of like, because one thing has been proven is that a lot of wokeness does not pay, right? Brands new. I mean, you can go down the line. We won't name them, but we all know what they are. They decide to do something that they think is progressive, and what it really is I don't know. It just turns off people in that particular brand for whatever reason, and nothing against whatever the thing is. That's their own views. But when you do it for, because it's almost like they're doing it for to try to get the algorithms, because they think that that's what
Right.
the people want, and they
Exactly.
don't really know that. They
Right.
don't really. They're just listening to mainstream media, and mainstream media is feeding them some stuff, and it's just not really working. So you we're talking about this subject, and it may seem like it's not related to what we're talking to our subject today, but it absolutely
It is.
100% is.
It is.
This is part of what we're up against as
Yes.
artists. We should have we have sort of a level playing field, right? I can make an Instagram, you can make an Instagram, right? You can play and go live on Instagram. I can go live and play on it. It's
Hmm.
really sort of to that degree, it's an even level playing field at the moment, right?
Right.
Now, yes, some of the platforms are a little bit more expensive now. Facebook is not a social media marketing, a social media platform. They're a marketing company now,
Right.
right?
Right.
Facebook is a marketing company. Look at them as a marketing company. Go and look at the Meta business pages.
Hmm.
Like, fabulous content. I
Yeah.
mean, why? Because they've sucked the soul out of everyone. They know everything about you. They know where you live, what you like, what you buy. They're connected with the algorithm. Google knows all of it. They have all the information, right? Because it's an information. We were in this information world since the 80s all the way till today. So all that data is in a computer. So they just sell that that information to us.
Right.
And is it bad? Is it good? That depends on what you think about it. If you think it's bad, then don't be on it.
Right.
But if you want to actually use it to your benefit, let's say I'm selling pens and I have this particular pen with this type of thing, and I go onto Facebook and I make an ad on a pen. I take a picture of the pen, I put it out there, I show writing, I do a video about with me writing about this pen, and then I go and I put it on a Facebook ad and I create the ad and I go, people from this age to this age that work in business that are into pens, and then I name all the different types of popular pens that people would buy, and I create an ad and I put it from 1 week and I put some money on it and it goes out. It's going to hit people that like pens.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sell pens.
Right.
Is that good or bad? That's good if you're
Mhm.
selling pens.
Sure.
If you're selling pens. If you're afraid of the algorithms, if you're afraid that you're being spied on, then turn off everything, move to the country and go off the grid, right? Which people do, right? People do. They do that all the time. But at this juncture right now, what we're talking about is trying to market your music.
Right.
So if you're a particular kind of music, like the band that I'm playing with right now is alternative country rock, right? That's our genre. And that genre is an actual genre which existed, which I didn't know it did, but it does. And there's a lot of other bands that I've met, or that I've heard, a couple of them I met that are in that same genre, which I met because I decided to get into that genre, right?
Right.
Drive By Truckers is one of them, and they're like freaking awesome. So there's all, and they're successful band. They're touring bands. You know what I mean. No one's heard. Not no one, but people don't generally. It's not a household name, is what I should say, right?
Right.
They are well known in that genre, right? So anybody can get to that point,
Would
but
you
the
say they have
work,
1,000 true fans?
they absolutely have 1,000 true fans.
Well, then you can absolutely make a living, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they have way more than that.
There you go.
Yeah, they're playing places. I saw one band called Uncle. I think it was Uncle. There's two Uncle. There's two bands in the same genre called Uncle something. One of them is Uncle Tupelo, which is Tupelo, like your hair in
Right.
Spanish,
Right.
but I guess it's Tupelo. And then another one called Uncle Lucius or Lucius, something like that. But these one of these bands has millions of followers. Like this is a successful band
Right.
that is not a household name, but they're out there playing music. They're also elbowing, rubbing elbows with like people like Bruce Springsteen. I see
Yeah.
them like doing duets with Bruce Springsteen, and I'm like, what the hell? I mean, it's amazing because the industry is, it's small, but there's a lot of people working in the industry that's not your Bruce Springsteens and
Right.
Beyonces and those, that there are people that are out there just doing the work. So if you really want to get in there, that's the what you have to do. But the work to learn about it, the books, that's the part that people don't like doing. They don't want to sit there and read a book. I got all these books right here that I'm in the middle of. I'm reading 3 books. Stupid. Um, but they're each based on like something that I want to learn about.
Yep.
So they're not like I don't have to turn in a term paper. I can take my time reading them, and I'll read 10 pages when I can, and 10 pages. Next thing you know, I'm almost halfway done, and then I'm done with the book. And I was like, oh, that was awesome. You know what I mean? So, but it takes that. That's the quiet time nobody sees, right?
Right.
That's the learning. You have to do these kinds of things. And what I found here in Nashville is that people are generally just want to play music, which is,
Yeah.
that's kind of what you should want to do. But there's this business side of it, which is what I'm working on with JHS Talent, where I'll work on those parts. I've learned that part. Now I'm going to instill that into bands and into different showcases and presentations and things like, concert series, which is what I have coming up. Anyway, I'm done with
Yeah.
that.
And that actually plays very well into the story that I'm going to talk about as well.
Yes. Why don't we go
So-
into that story, because I think that's something that we really I really want to talk about. And you told me a little bit about it, but I don't know much.
Yeah. So,
about
and I'll kind of condense it down, but it's a very interesting story. And it's a story of, there's a lot of things. There's the marketing piece, there's the mindset, there's the perseverance. And it's very, very. So we're going to talk about Jewel. For those of you who know Jewel, she's a very successful singer. Came out in the '90s, and she had hits and stuff like that. She hasn't done that much lately. Came out with a song a couple of years ago.
I follow her on social media a
Yeah,
lot, and
she has like a foundation now, and she does. She's done a couple of movies and stuff. But anyway, so just a little backstory on her, because again, I heard this story the other day, and I heard it a couple of times, and I really thought it was interesting. So she, real quick. So she grows up in a family of singers, of musicians, brothers, and all this. Right. Dad was a Vietnam vet, abusive. Okay. Mom was a singer, but also kind of like strung out. He really didn't know how to be mom. So mom leaves the family and just says she can't be mom anymore. Leaves the family. So dad now is raising the kids. And he's abusive on top of that, right? But through all that, they were singing. They went out, they did parties, they sang. So she always had singing. They actually were big in yodeling, which is interesting. But that's how she got her vocals.
I know about the yodeling.
Yeah. So anyway, so then after 15 years old, 16 years old, she decides, I'm gonna go out on the road and I'm gonna start to make my life. And she goes out with a guitar and songs that she wrote, and goes out and starts to play little places and stuff like that, and little things, nothing crazy. She does some classes in like a performing arts place and all this. Then she goes and back to California, finally sees her mom. They stay. She's together with her mom a little while, and then she leaves again. And basically, it's her and a car. That's pretty much it. Okay, so now she's a young girl, her in a car, and things don't go well with her and her mom. Mom loses the house. So now they're homeless. So Jewel is homeless now. Again, it's her in the car. And she's trying to figure out how to play, make a living, and she's, has a lot of health issues. So she doesn't have health insurance, a lot of stuff going on. So she's living in her car, and she's sitting, her car was parked in a certain area in California, and there's this little shop that's across. It's like a coffee shop. And the coffee shop is going out of business. So first decision, okay, young girl living in her car says, what if I could talk to this owner and see what I can do? She goes to the owner, and the owner's name is Nancy. And she tells the owner, listen, I see you're going out of business. She says, why don't we do some kind of arrangement where I can play here every night, sing my songs, and if I draw a crowd, I'll get whatever comes in the door, and you take everything else. And maybe we can help each other. Maybe I can get a following, and maybe we can grow this place and keep it from going out of business. So Nancy says, let's do it. So she takes her guitar and starts playing there. And then in between that, she's going to the beach and singing at the beach to try to drum up people to go see her that night. So she's seeing the surfers. Surfers are coming up. She's, hey, and she's handing out flyers. This is, now keep in mind, this is in the 90s, grunge and all this, pre-internet maybe, stuff like that. So she's handing out flyers to these guys and everything. Hey, come see me play. I'm playing at this place, whatever. So she goes, she's playing this place. One night, a couple of the surfers come, and they actually see her perform. Every night, little by little, the crowd starts to gather. And she's getting in. Now she's playing a mixture of her songs that she wrote and some cover tunes, playing her heart out, playing, the pain is coming out, everything. She notices as she's playing that there's people in the audience crying at her material. So she goes, this is what she thought about. She's like, there's something going on here. There's something in this atmosphere that's working.
Yeah.
So keeps doing it. Sure enough, now the audience is multiplying.
Wow.
Now she's making money just from the door. It got so crazy that it started to spill out of the cafe. So they had to put speakers at the outside of the cafe so they can hear her play. And there was people standing in the rain listening to her play her songs.
Wow.
So she's becoming a hit in the community now. Everybody's coming to see her. So of course, word starts to trickle. Record companies now, they start to hear this. So now they start to show up. And so they're listening. So they're listening to her, whatever. They start to talk to her and all this. Another limousine start pulling up. They start to talk to her, and she's telling this too, right? Now there's a bidding war. So now the record company, Sony, and all these companies are going back and forth that they want to, and she's meeting with all of them, and she flies out and comes here and comes there and all this, right? So then she goes, again, a young girl, she goes, I know nothing about the music industry as far as the business side. I don't have a manager. It's just me.
Yeah.
So she goes to the library, gets a book on a guide to the music business. I don't remember the exact name of it. Freaking reads the book. Okay. She's learning about front end deals, back end deals, the advance and how the music industry
There's
works.
one
So
called Business About Music, and
yeah,
it's
it's
very
one of those books.
popular one. Yeah.
I don't know the exact one, but she just goes through the entire book. So now she's educated, knowledge of what's going on.
Wow.
So now she's sitting with these executives, her by herself, sitting. And so one of the executives tells her, I really like your stuff. And he said, so I'm going to make you an offer right here. He says, I'm going to offer you $1 million advance and we'll get you out there and boom. So she's thinking about it. She's like, so now she knows how this works.
Right.
Because she's saying,
It's an advance. It's
if
not-
I get an advance, that's a loan, basically.
Yeah, it's
And I got to pay this back before I make any money. And if this
probably
craps
with some
out,
interest too.
yeah, and they're probably going to try to make me into something I'm not. So she's thinking about it. And she says, honestly, she says, I've been just playing this place. She goes, I'm not ready. So this is what she tells the guy. Again, brilliance. She says, why don't we do this? She says, don't give me the advance. She says, give me a back end deal.
They're like, how does she know what?
Yeah. She says, give me a back end deal. She goes, because I'm not costing you money up front. She goes, let me sell my stuff on the back end. And then this way you don't have to worry about putting all this money to me and we'll work it out on the back end. So the guy says, all right, you're not going to be costing us any money. Let's do it. So he says, okay, so why don't we record you and we'll give you this big shot producer and all this. She says, you know what? I really love Neil Young. She says, I really want to be kind of like a female Neil Young. So she says, so I would like to record with Neil Young's producer.
Ooh.
So he goes, okay. So she goes to Neil Young's ranch. She not only records her first CD with Neil Young's producer, but his backing band, the Stray, I forgot what their name is, a Stray Stray Craters or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, these are all musicians who have been around forever. And she's the little girl in here. She's completely intimidated. Okay. So she plays the album and she records the album. Okay. So now she's marketing the album, trying to get the album out there. And she says, I'm completely nervous. She says, you can hear it in the album. I'm nervous, right? The album bombs, doesn't sell much at all. So the record company comes to her, but she knows they're not going to kick her off because she doesn't have an advance. So the record company says, listen, your album's not selling. Why don't you go do some touring and try to drum up that way? So she goes, okay. She goes, well, you know what? She says, I have a car, I have a guitar, and I'm going to tour. Takes her car, goes and she makes deals with these bands that she meets to be with them and tour with them. She starts playing high schools. She starts playing colleges. She starts getting her chops and her confidence up.
Yeah.
And she starts to focus on the quality of her performance, the quality of her music, and getting that in there. She does this for 1.5 years. Okay. After all the hoopla.
Wow.
Then, so after that, towards the end, she says, you know what? She says, I feel much better about myself, my confidence, my singing ability, my performance. She goes, I'm going to re-record that album. So she goes back to the studio and with her friend Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, it's a weird guy to know, but and he helps her record the same album over, completely different now.
Yeah.
She
has that whole experience now.
She has the experience, exactly. Now she records the album and then she records a video with the album. The video goes on MTV or whatever that was, a VH1 and all that stuff, explodes. Her album comes, and now remember, she's got the back end deal.
Right.
So now all of a sudden, she starts getting played on college radio and little by little, and You Meant For Me, which is that big song, just explodes everywhere. All that money now piles up on the back end. She gets all that money and boom, she's Jewel.
She's Jewel. Wow.
Okay. And I mean, there's other things in there because her mother ended up stealing some money from her, and it was a whole thing. But the point is that look at the decisions that she made as a young girl, knowing nothing about nothing.
Yeah.
Because this story could have gone 100 different ways.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it goes back to what we were just saying about learning,
Right.
because I think exactly what she did can still be done today.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it still can be done today exactly the same way, except today you have even more tools that you can utilize to put your stuff out. You know, to send emails, and to connect with people, networking. You can do networking, on your phone. So those things are the same, but the same tenacity is what's needed. That you can do that today. You can go out and just meet people and network, play your songs, make deals. Don't take bad deals, because I think that's what happens also a lot of times. Some of these bands will get these bad deals, even if they're not really bad financial deals. They're still bad deals.
Yes.
They kind of leave a
Yes.
taste, bad taste in their mouth and stuff, and then it's harder for them to kind of pull themselves out of that. Be smart about it, because remember, the record labels, the reason that they exist is because of artists, because of
Right.
musicians, because
Right.
of the music. They wouldn't exist because if it wasn't for that. So you do have an ability, and if they're coming to you, then you do have the ability to control the narrative of that conversation.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
the fear of not being successful. I mean, imagine somebody. How many people would take $1 million right off the
That's
top?
what
You know
that's
what I
that what
mean?
I'm saying. How
At
many
that
people would
age,
just say
at that
I'm done.
age.
I'm gone. I
Like
take
I
it.
could see
Boom.
somebody at my age not doing it, but somebody at that age, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'll take it." That I don't have to go to my job. I can now just work and record music,
And she was homeless.
and homeless. I could get a place to live. I mean, there were so many reasons for her take, to take that $1 million, and she didn't, because she educated herself. And this is
Right.
what we talk about, and this is why the artist blueprint exists, is because we put all these things here so you can educate yourself. Not take our word for it, but go out and try to find things that you're going to be asked, situations that you're going to be in.
Right.
You're going to be in a situation where you got to have a conversation with somebody about whether you're going to play here or not, or whether you're going to take that deal or this deal. What's a better deal? You're going to have these situations in front of you. Why not get educated in that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and be able to make those decisions, properly?
But it's also knowing yourself and
That's
being in
that's a big
and
thing.
knowing how you are going to. I mean, think about that deal, right? Because okay, you can take that $1 million, but in her mind, it was like, I'm not ready. And just to have the maturity to say that, and then to work on your craft and to get it, because her focus was the quality. She wanted
Yep.
to be, her thing was, and she even said it, she talked about it on Rogan. She said, I wanted to be happy, number one, but she said I wanted to be a musician.
Right.
She said music and being a musician was more important to me than anything.
Right.
And she
And
wanted, and
even if
that
she was in her car, she's a musician.
exactly
She
right.
didn't care. Even
Right.
if she's driving around in her car, going from show to show
Right.
with her guitar, she's a musician. She
Yep.
makes $100 here. She eats for a couple of days. She goes, makes another $100. She doesn't care. You know what I mean? She's a musician and she lives for that.
Right.
And that's very, I mean, that's a great story, man. That's a great testament to the artist,
Yeah.
where you put everything aside and you say, you know what? That's it. I'm doing this, and you have to have, some people will say, it's a little bit of a delusional, right? Um, there could be a delusion there. You know what I mean? You just this whole business of show business is somewhat delusional.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to focus on people seeing me and listening to my songs. That's gonna be, and I want them to be in me, and it's sort of like this weird kind of thing, but it's not really me. It's
Yeah.
really my create for you,
Right.
and it's like, and that's why, Rick Rubin, right? He talks about you're not making it for the audience,
Yes.
you're making it for you, and it turns out that if you make it for yourself, it resonates with people because you're
Yes.
being true to yourself. if you're, and this is what happens, I think, with what we were talking about earlier about the woke thing, is that they're not making it for themselves. They're
Correct.
making it for the audience, thinking that the audience is going to like that.
Right.
And this is why sophomore albums never are historically don't do well,
Hmm.
because that first one, they made it for themselves. This is the stuff that we've been working on for years and years, and we're making it for ourselves. And you guys want to record it? That's awesome. Let's record it. Then the second one is like, okay, guys, we need you to do that same thing.
Yeah. Right.
And people are like, the perfect example is Rush.
Yeah.
Rush had an album, they did okay, didn't do great. And then that album, they say, okay, guys, you guys got to do this, or else we need a hit single.
Yep.
We need a single, or else we're gonna drop you. And they went out and they decided to do the most unsingle thing you can do, and
Yeah.
do 2112,
Yep.
which was a massive hit, but it
Yeah.
was not without them just saying, we don't care. This is who we are. We're going to
Mhm.
be true to ourselves and to our
Right.
music. And that's what Jewel did. And, it's a great story. And I love to hear stories like that, because there's so many of those types of stories,
Yeah.
where you, sometimes I'll talk about, I think we might have talked about it on this show here. What's the comedian? Family Feud. The new Family Feud.
Oh, you talk. Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
So he's got that great story, of like he's somewhere, and he gets a call to do an Apollo, to,
Mm.
to be at the Apollo, and he's like has no money. He's like, I can't. He's like, when is it? And he calls up. He listening to his voice phone, right? And it says for next Saturday. It's like, I don't have a dime in my.
Right.
So as he's hanging up the phone, he hears another beep, like another message was being left. So he hears it, and it was a club saying like, "Hey, if you can come down, I'll pay you $75 to do the show." Now he knew that Eastern Airline had a deal for $100 to go, round trip to go. So he knew he
Mm.
needed that. So the guy called him up, and he said he called him. He said, "Yeah, I'll come down." And then I don't remember the full details, but he decides, he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna." He calls up the guy again from the Apollo. And he's like, "Is that slot still open?"
Mhm.
And the guy's like, "Yeah, it's open, but you got to be here by this time." And he's like, "All right, I'll be there." So he does the one gig, and then he killed it.
Right.
He crushed it. So the guy said, "Hey, if you come back again, I'll give you another $75 each time, each slot." So now he's got like $300. Now he's got some money to go to New York and to do the Apollo. So he flies over there. He's got no place to live over there. He's got no room. He goes to the Apollo. He lands and goes to the Apollo. It's the middle of the day. So
Right.
he's knocking on the door. The guy's like, "Wait, yeah, that is tonight." He's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Listen, man, if you just let me sit up there, I got nowhere to go." He said, "You just let me sit up there, I'll swear I'll be quiet." The guy said, "All right, go upstairs, but do not come down. You got to stay up there. Do not come down here, right?" So it'd be about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he's starving. He's like, "I got to get something." So he comes down, and the guy said, "Hey, man, I told you not to come down." He's like, "Oh, man, listen, you let me go right there to the KFC, man. Let me just get a little bit of some chicken, man. I'm starving, man. I got." So the guy was like, "You better come back and get right back up there again, right?" So he runs out, gets his chicken, goes upstairs, and he goes out, and he crushes that night. He does well, but before him, there was a guy who went out before him and bombed miserably. He bombed like so bad, and that guy was he played Ray Charles. What was his name?
Oh, in the movie, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, the
Um.
funniest guy.
Uh,
I can't believe I can't
yeah.
remember his name
Oh
now.
my God. I see
Uh,
his face, but
yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Anyway,
Ugh, why do I hate when you blank out like that?
yeah, but that's why we got computers. So he ends up going Jamie Foxx.
Jimmy Fox.
So
Jimmy Fox.
he's actually now. So Jamie Foxx goes on and bombs,
Wow.
and he's sitting on the steps, and he's like, "Man, I don't know, man. I don't know how long I can do this anymore." And here is, Steve Harvey's like, "Man, you gotta hang in there, man. You funny, man, and you really funny. You just gotta hang in there." He is trying to motivate an Academy Award winning actor
Oh my
now, who's
God.
like hilarious, one of the funniest. And well, Jamie Foxx is like super talented in many areas. The
Oh
guy's an
yeah.
amazing singer,
Yes.
dancer, actor, everything, and super funny. I mean, he's just in a league of his own. So he's motivating this guy here, and and Steve was the last one to go up. So he's
Right.
thinking everybody was bombing. Like the Sandman came out and grabbed everybody off the stage, and
Jeez.
so he goes out thinking that, man, this is. So he goes out and crushes. He crushes it. He did a bit about Mike Tyson when he fought the Green,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
then he did a whole bit about Green's eye talking when he he was like, "Yeah, man." So I was just hanging out, and then I see Mike, right? And Mike's coming up, so like his eye talking. Anyway, it killed, right? And so he gets a call to, "Hey, you want to come down and host?" So
Wow.
he comes down and he hosts, and then he became the longest running host of the Apollo for 9 years.
Wow.
That dude hosted off of the phone call where he had no money to get to New York.
Look at that. Look at
You know
that.
what I mean? And you hear stories like that, and you're just like, man, it's more about knowing what you want to do and sticking to it at
Yes.
all costs.
Yes.
And God and praying and and having hope and faith and all that. I mean, he did say, he said, "Man, God, if you give me something," and then the phone rang, and he got these gigs and he got this money, and he said, "I'll swear if I can get this, man, I'm gonna give back." And so, and that's what he does. I mean,
Yeah.
Steve Harvey is a gives back a lot. I don't know, too much about his organizations, but I know that he's a stand-up guy from what I've seen,
Hmm.
in as a fan, right? Um, and from what other people have said too. But those are the kind of stories, that and again, this is why I think it's important that we've had this conversation today, George, because it's we've talked about Jewel, we talked about Steve Harvey, and we talked about that journey, but none of them had social media. None of them had
Correct.
platforms to do that. None of them had this. They had the one thing that I feel that is could get lost if you rely on the algorithms, and that is that tenacity, that determination, that
Yes.
boldness, that
Yes.
faith in what you're doing, and that love for the art, the 100% love that you're going to do this. When George and I we used to talk about playing music, like it didn't matter if we sold a record, we sold nothing. It didn't matter if we played to 1 million people, to a 10 people. We've played shows to almost no one, and had people tell us, "Man, I've never seen a band." Remember that day we played to like 10 people, and they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
never seen a band play to a crowded house with the same energy that they played to with 10 people.
That's
And
right.
that's how we always did it, because
Yes.
we loved the music and it was all about playing,
That's it.
and that passion, that's really what's needed. And I get so inspired when I hear stories like this.
Mm.
This is why I do a lot of reading.
Yeah.
I read because in these stories are tales of what happened, how it occurred, how that journey went from someone, a kid in their house, to a stadium.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like that journey is super fascinating.
Yeah.
I've read Keith Richards' biography. I think it was called Under the Influence or something like that, and
Hmm.
it was just so good. It was so good because it talked about exactly what we're saying. They had no idea what they were doing, but they knew that they were gonna do it.
Right.
They
Right.
knew that the music was something that they loved so much, and this is how Mick Jagger met Keith Richards. He had records under his arms. And he's like, "Oh, what do you got?" And he was like, and they had the same love of records. If you get a Muddy Water records in England, back in them days, it was like a big deal because
Sure.
it wasn't like readily available. These records, even in America, you had to kind of go to a record shop and do
Hmm.
you have black music?
Yeah.
What I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't like a thing that was everywhere. So it was a big deal. So if you had a stack of records and they had a stack of records, you had a new friend, because now you're gonna go to your record player and you're gonna listen to these songs over and over, and you're going to learn these licks, and that's what they did. And they would sit around and just play these songs. So that's really inspiring, man. I
Yeah.
love that. We talked about nothing that I had on my sheet.
Let's run through
Part three. No,
it.
we'll end now because we have a guest. We have guests coming up for the next couple of weeks, so we're excited about that. I think in the next couple of weeks, right? Yeah, yeah, next couple of weeks. So what I was talking about here was the we talked about live streaming. You
Hmm.
know, I think that's something that I think does get, it is an opportunity. It's not. Listen, there's nothing better. I just played last Thursday, and I hadn't played in a on a stage in a long time with full band and everything. And there's nothing like that. It's flying. It is literally you take flight. You know, so social media or live streaming, I should say, it's nothing like. If George and I were doing this show in front of a live audience, it would be a completely different experience, and we would just be having so much fun. It would be a tremendous privilege, first of all, and it would be the energy level and what you get back from an audience. You can't beat it, right? I
Right.
mean, we love doing this, and we
Yep.
love to hear your comments, and we love to hear, messages when we get back, people telling us to stop doing it. But the we get, I'm just kidding. No, we get a lot of great messages, and we get haters like everybody else, which is a good thing. I like the haters to be in there as well. Give them some love. They need it more than anybody, but it's a different thing. So live streaming and live performances, two completely different
Yeah.
things. But
Yes.
the live streaming, what it does, it opens up the possibility of your Aunt May in
Yeah.
in Bogota being able to tune in to your
True.
show.
True.
Your family down in Florida, your family down there. It's like George and I would not be able. We wouldn't be doing a show if it hadn't been for StreamYard
That's right.
and for these platforms, right? We wouldn't be doing this. George and I probably wouldn't even be that connected.
Correct.
I mean, we would probably talk on the phone every once in a while, and we'd get on the phone and we'd have a great time for like an hour because we used to do that back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Just get on the phone and just talk for an hour with nonsense, right?
Yeah.
That's the extent. Oh, how old is she now? How old is your kid? Well, George gets to see my son whenever he comes into the
That's
camera,
right.
and he gets to see him. So we are blessed and living in a time when we can connect and use that technology for good, right? So the fact that we can have a live stream show, it's something to consider. Now there are some steps that you need to take. There's sound quality. You want to be able to give a product that people can listen to and it sounds decent. So
Yep.
there are a few things that you have to do, but really reading about it and studying about it is a very, very important thing, I feel, for an artist. So just have that under your belt where you can do the live and you can do I mean, live in person, and a live stream, at in studio or at home. Um, the last thing I was going to talk about on my sheet here was social media collaborations. I think that's become very popular. And this is where the work comes in. A lot of people don't want to sit on social media and scrolling. They don't want to do this. Unfortunately, that's what the work is. I have my time, but I do it every morning while I'm having my coffee. After I drop off my son to school, I come home and I go on there and I'm looking to see who's on, who's posting, who's doing anything. I'll see a new band. I'm like, oh, let me check them out. Or I'll see a friend of mine that went to go see a band.
Mm.
Well, let me go follow that band, or let me go see what they're doing and then see if I connect. And that's how I've met a tremendous amount of people here in Nashville, because then I connect with them, through that. So collaborating is really an important thing. Isis, Christopher, who's one of the artists that I'm working with right now, who performed at the Tennessee State Museum on an event that we had her in. Um, great singer, great talent, really, really wonderful person, really easy to talk to, very engaged, very there. Um, I met her because when I first got this is the domino effect that you can get, right. I arrived to Nashville on July 14th, 2021, 2021, right. And the following month, my good friend John Statham, who's been on our show, Steve Schlussel, who's actually the bass player in the band that I'm playing with now, and Neil Briggs, who's a drummer, a friend of ours that we know, were playing at an outdoor venue in Mount Juliet, which is about 20 minutes from where we live now, right? So when I was like, well, I got to go see them play. That was like my first thing. So I went, and I went to go see them play. From that event, there was a band there called Soul Chess,
Mm,
and Soul Chess performed that night that day, and I was like, man, these guys are super energetic. And
yeah.
and one of the things that I was also saying the other day was that I could also tell that they're very friendly, and this is kind of like an innate thing that I you can look and you can tell they got along so well on stage. They had fun. They were just having a good time, and I thought, man, these guys look really cool. I would like to connect with them.
Right.
So I started following them on social media, and I connected with the lead guitarist, who's the kind of the founder of the band, and we've had meetings together. I've gone to his house now, and we've had meetings with the whole band and stuff, and all through that one thing. Come to the Tennessee, starting JHS Talent, Tennessee State Museum reached out. They need a singer. So I didn't have any singer that would fit the event that they had. So I sent a message to Chris. Hey, Chris, do you know anybody? He recommends Isis. I meet with Isis, and Isis performed. She was incredible. Now I'm working with Isis. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that whole sequence came from me getting in the car and going to Mount Juliet to see my friend perform.
Right.
That was it. I also met Emma Ohm there, that I also worked with, and I also met someone else. I can't remember who else, but I met a few people that night or that day, and it was a. So this is the kind of networking that. And I have this is I guess an announce. We're almost at the top of the hour. An announcement. So on May 3rd, the JHS talent management crew is going to have our first "You Are the Magic" concert series event at a place called the Why Not Saloon, which is in Bellevue here in Tennessee. And I'm going to have a flyer here, so I can show the flyer. And right there, you see Soul Chess is going to be on the band. They're closing out the night because they're so energetic. I was like, I'm not following these guys. They got to close out the night. So, and Break Time, which is a group that we've had also on the show, and then I met in New Jersey. They're from New Jersey. They're actually coming down to Nashville to perform here. And then my band, Mockingbird Canyon Road, is going to be performing there. It's on May 3rd. Doors open at 7:30. The show starts at 8. It's the You Are the Magic concert series, and the Why Not Saloon. Very excited to bring that, and that's going to be the first of many of those events that I'm going to be sponsoring, and we're really excited to put those out. Thank you. But again, it's just the work. It's the work that we think is we don't want to do,
Yeah.
or we
Hmm.
don't. We're maybe cynical about the work,
Right.
and it's like, well, I've tried it. I had somebody tell me the other day, well, I was posting reels for like 2 weeks, and I got nothing. I'm like, 2 weeks. I was like, you know how long I post to try to get anything? You gotta be consistent. You gotta just first of all, don't put time to it. If you say you've been doing it for 2 weeks, that means that you had in your mind
Yeah. Yeah.
2 weeks. You've already defeated yourself
Right.
because you're putting a time to it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just put the content. If you have trouble with what kind of content you want to get out, you could always email us, email me, email, friends, just try to go online. There's a gazillion things that we can talk about. But seriously, it is going to be a responsibility that the artist has to take, along with that mentality of the Jewel and the Steve Harvey stories. These, that viewpoint, that idea, that drive, that is always going to be needed.
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram is not going to do it for you. And I don't care how viral you go on TikTok. You can go viral on TikTok, but if you're not able to perform live consistently, the TikTok is only going to go so far.
Right.
Because at some point, people are going to be like, can we see you do something for real live? And now with AI coming, who knows what are we looking at?
Yeah.
Is this a real person or not? It's like, no, we got to see somebody. And then, of course, we got holograms. So who the hell knows what the future holds, right? But we do know that artists are important.
Yes.
We've said this in this show. many times that artists really are the most important people, and people will say, "Well, what about doctors and and people who heal and so on?" Yeah, they're important, but an artist motivates and inspires people way more than a doctor. Nobody pays tickets to go see a doctor. Nobody pays, a doctor can't fill a stadium.
True.
An artist can motivate. A film can really change someone's viewpoint and improve their lives because they decide to look at life differently. A poem can open you up and really get you to accept who you are and be able to reach outward. So artists, yes.
Well said, John.
Thank you.
We're,
We're at the
we're,
top of the hour. I'm out of breath. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in. I think that we really care about y'all, and we really want you to take our this show and share it with friends if you think that this is valuable and you really feel that we can provide some type of hope for someone. There's a lot of other shows that we cover so many other things and we go into specific things. I mean, even here, just the story of Jules alone, is inspiring to want to get somebody to go out and really just say, you know what, I'm just tired of this life, or I'm tired of being tired. I'm tired of struggling. I want to just do my work. And you can get there. And then, trust me, if you have kids, like I have two kids. If you have kids, if you move from one state to another without really knowing that and anybody. Now I know hundreds of people actually. Here. I knew maybe two people when I came here. I knew John Statham and Steve.
mm,
Those were the two people that I knew from here. Everyone else I knew as acquaintances, maybe through certain things, through music and through the church and stuff. But other than that, no, I didn't know anybody. Coming here. There are going to be challenges, and this is where you have to say, okay, am I going to just give in to being tired and then just go sit down on the couch and watch a show and eat my snacks and feel comfortable because it is comfortable. I like doing that.
yep.
It is comfortable. You know what I mean? Or am I going to take that 2 hour break where I'm going to step away and I'm going to work on something? I'm going to read something. I'm going to watch a YouTube video on something that I'm interested in, whatever that may be. Am I going to send that email out that I've been putting off to that person that I know can help me, or whatever the situation may be? The choice is going to be yours, and you're going to look back. And we've said this before, you're going to look back in 10 years and you're still going to be able, but you just gave up 10 years.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely
gave
right.
up 10 years. And what do you have to show for those 10 years, except the complaining, and complaining is, I know because I'm guilty of complaining, I'm as guilty as anyone. And, but then I look at it and I'm like, well, idiot, you could have done that. This is why now I'm not lazy at all. Now I make the phone calls. I take the hour drive to go see someone perform and just to meet somebody or whatever the thing is, I do it,
Yeah.
and I tell my wife and I tell my kids, I'll be back, but I thought we are going to go to, well, your mother's going to take you. I'm sorry. I really need to go do this and I'll meet you there. Whatever it is, it's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's a sacrifice, but you're doing it for them. You're also doing it for yourself because
Yep.
you know that the drive after giving up to something is going to be way more frustrating. And
Right.
what ends up happening is that you end up being unhappy, and then an unhappy person creates an unhappy home,
Yep.
and an unhappy home, you have kids that are hurting and not doing well in life, and it affects everybody. So if you're true to yourself and true to your passion, you're going to help those around you, even though you may think that or maybe somebody might try to make you feel guilty that you're not spending enough time. You know, those people aren't you, and they don't know you, and they don't know what you're going after.
Right.
They're probably done already in their lives, and they don't see anything else beyond their own blinds. So you have to just move. And if somebody's really suppressing you, then you got to just leave.
Yeah.
you gotta Then you got to just disconnect from that, or at least have a conversation with them. I always tell people that, if I'm talking to somebody like an artist or something, and I'm saying, oh, like, well, I'm not saying leave, but I'm saying have a conversation, and the conversation should start like this. I need to talk to you about something very serious.
Hmm.
That's how the conversation needs to start.
Right.
And then get their attention and then be like, I'm not happy with this. I'm not happy with this. And I'm not happy with this. I am not going to stop doing this music. I'm not going to stop acting, whatever it is. And I need your support. And if you don't want to support me, then we have to have another conversation.
Yeah.
And then it has to happen, and
Right.
it's hard. But yeah, anyway, that can go on. That's a whole other show, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Alrighty, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. We appreciate you so much. We understand that there's so much stuff that you can be doing right now than to watch these two Puerto Ricans from the Bronx just talking about stuff. But we are sincere and we really, really do appreciate you taking the time to spend with us. We love you for that. And we will be here again next Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have some guests coming up. So stay tuned for that in the next couple of days. I'll be posting who our guests are. And I have some in the works that I haven't even told George about that I'm excited about that we're going to be booking very, very soon as well. So yeah, so we'll see you all next week. Thank you very much. Love you all. And as always, peace.